Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Town of Cedar Lake Utility Board public meeting for August 2023. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
Julie Rivera. Here. Ralph Miller.
Present.
Colleen Sheehan. Here. John Foreman.
Present.
Richard Sharp.
Here.
Nick Recupido.
Here.
I am present. Chris Salatis is absent. David Austin.
Present.
And Margaret Abernathy, Administrative Assistant to the Town Manager, is present this evening.
All right, thank you. New business, item number 1, approval of the minutes from July 18th, 2023. Any discussion or corrections on the minutes? If not, do I have a motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by John, seconded by Ralph. Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Nick Recupido.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item number 2 is NEAS pay request number 8 for the West Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Project 1, payable to LGS Plumbing Incorporated in the amount of $397,044.44. Good evening, Mr. Simstad. How are you?
Mr. President, excellent, thank you. Yes, this is pay request number 8 for LGS. This is for the West Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Project 1. Over the past month for the routine pay requests, this was 3 runs of sanitary sewer in the amount of $397,044.44. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
What do you mean by runs?
From one manhole to the next manhole.
And where was that located at?
On 159th, on the north side, heading west upstream.
Okay, I drove through there and looked at that, and then it goes across Morris, and that goes to our flume, right?
Yeah, it starts at the flume, it comes west to Morris, on the east side of Morris, comes up several runs from manhole to manhole, crosses at 45-degree angle across Morris, and then continues north upstream to 159th, and then continues west where this project will ultimately end for Project 1 at Klein Avenue on 159th.
And on Morris, there on the west side, it's on the side of the road, not in the road.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, we're outside the pavement.
Yeah.
An easement
Yeah.
that we purchased.
Like I said, I drove down through there and looked the area over and just looked clarification.
Yeah, they're moving along. They do have some challenges with CSX from the railroad on flaggers, and we have obviously no control over the railroads, but they are coordinating with them, the contractor and the railroad together. So when they have those available for flaggers, they'll continue with the boring jack, crossing the CSX line to Klein Avenue, where the termination of this portion of the Project 1 will complete.
Oh, so it's Klein west of the CSX then?
Yes, at that location, yes.
Huh. Because it runs on an angle.
It does. As you go north, the railroad crosses there, and then it's on the other side of the street, but Klein Avenue does run directly north-south.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Any other questions for Neil or any discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve this pay request?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Ralph, seconded by Colleen to approve this pay request. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Nick Recupido.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Item number 3 of new business, Westler Task Order 15, evaluation of wastewater treatment plant service area and flow projections with a lump sum fee of $11,500, split 50-50 with the amount of $5,750. Who is going to take this one?
I'll take this, as Chris is unfortunately not here today. This was a topic of conversation on the JMOB, and it's looking at future potential service area and needs for the service areas between Lowell and Cedar Lake, and that assessment being performed by Westler. We will coordinate our data that we have for them to assist them in their work so that they can accurately project what flow data we're looking for in the next 5, 10, 20 years.
Okay, thanks, Neil.
And Westler is their engineer.
It is the engineer for the JMOB.
Us too.
Yeah, they essentially do work for Lowell, but they work for the JMOB as well.
Okay.
And we reviewed this on a staff level, and everything seems to be in fine order.
Okay, thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the contract or anything, or a task order or anything for Neil? So this would be approving an expenditure of $5,750 for this task order. Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
A motion made by Rick, seconded by Ralph. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Nick Rakupitos?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item number 4, future water capacity needs planning discussion. Been an ongoing topic. I know Chris has usually chimed in when we had any information. Do you have anything to add, Neil?
I don't. Chris has been working diligently with staff and the outside consultants for that additional future planning needs, specifically on the east side, and he can more accurately and appropriately report that back to you either by email or at your next meeting.
Okay. All right, we'll look forward to that at the next public meeting. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Item number 5, written report, fund report, clerk treasurer, Ms. Sandberg.
The cash and expenditure reports were emailed out to you all last week. I really don't have any updates at this time. We're still going through getting budget for 2024, and also State Board of Accounts has now descended upon us, so that is my primary focus for the next little while.
Yeah, the siege. All right. Thank you. Anything for Jennifer? Moving on to item number 6, consultants and staff reports. Item 8, engineer Neese.
For the Westside Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Project 1, we mentioned that earlier. Project 2, design is complete, item permits complete, and we're coordinating with staff on the final acquisition of the easement, and we'll proceed immediately after that. Project 3, we are working on a couple options in terms of some analysis of what's the best bang for the buck that we can get in terms of how do we get from the end of Project 2 to the beginning of Project 4 with this Project 3 routing. And Chris and I have coordinated with that. We have a couple ideas and recommendations, and we estimate we'll have that to him in the next few weeks that we can review with Tim and Tony and his staff as well.
I have a question for you on the water line that went from the lighthouse well across the street and that road.
Yep.
Is there anything else that needs to be done there?
In terms of below ground, no. In terms of above ground, absolutely.
And I just find it unacceptable that that hasn't been repaired. I get so many complaints about that.
Yes.
I'm tired of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The contractor is working on their punch list. They've been out this week, and they are diligently working on that, and you have a punch list for them. We have retainage, and I have no doubt that they'll complete that list in a timely manner. It is, as we've talked before, the restoration portion of any major public works project is absolutely the most challenging part of it, but they are working to get that completed.
Neil, I had a question for you too, if I could.
Oh, go ahead, John. Sure.
The status, we have a logo on the water tower,
Yes,
and we're just putting it on the one side, I would imagine.
correct.
And where are we on that? Is it?
With the completion of the water
Yes,
tower,
yes.
we have a staff level meeting scheduled for Thursday this week with Tim and his staff and the contractor to complete their work. They are on schedule, and they're beginning to get back out there within the next couple weeks to complete their site work, the parking area, the curbing, begin restoration, and then they'll move forward with disinfection and testing of the tower prior to putting it in service.
Awesome. So in-service goal date still the same?
The last time we had talked, it was estimated to be September. The contractor did have an issue with, some permitting, and they've since rectified that yet this week, and they'll continue with their work subsequent to that. So if I were a betting man, I would say more likely October is the reasonable completion for that
So
project.
once complete, Crystal Oaks, Lemon Lake Estates, Robin's Nest, those folks will all have more pressure?
They'll have the same pressure, but they'll have more volume.
Okay.
Because ultimately, what we need to do, and without getting too far in the weeds, is, the system between the east side and the west side is, those two will ultimately be connected as proposed by your IURC rate case from 2020 and 2022 with an interconnect running somewhere on the north side of the town, north of the lake, and that the pressure will remain the same, but obviously we got 250,000 gallons more volume, which benefits us only in terms of capacity needs and firefighting protection.
Fire.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
With that, that made me think of, I drove over through there, and I haven't seen anybody working over there, and there's mounds of dirt behind that screening, that it looks like they could be doing something over there.
And that gets back to what I mentioned earlier in terms of their permitting issue and scheduling that with their bonds and being a licensed contractor with the town that has since been satisfied as of this week.
You need to crack the whip a little more.
And as I've said before, if I could go to the contractor, handcuff them to their equipment and get them out there, I would do it. I think the police chief may disagree with that method, but ultimately, the utility board and the town council has the ultimate control over them with the money. You have the rest, the retainage, you have their pay requests, and ultimately, we can do what work needs to be done as part of that due to that retainage and the future pay requests.
I just hope you're on them, constantly telling them, let's keep going here.
The old saying is, I'm on them like stink on a monkey.
Neil, do you think it's unreasonable well, actually, who's the contractor that's responsible for Moore Street patching that in?
That's H&G.
Okay, is it unreasonable to ask them to put down some cold patch or something in there in the time being?
Absolutely not, and we have.
Oh, can we ask them to do that, please?
I will have a
That's an area that you had been talking about, Bob?
Yeah.
I will have a conversation again with them, absolutely.
It's been rough for a long time, and I think.
And it would be a waste of money to put cold patch. It'd be more efficient if they just came in there and did it.
I agree.
Well, maybe you can have that discussion with them, Neil.
I absolutely will
Appreciate it.
tomorrow morning.
Okay. Did you have anything on the water update? Or were we good?
Those projects are proceeding, as we discussed, for the elevated tank and the east side intercenter.
All right, thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Director of Operations?
I don't have anything. They just did get that line pressurized last week, so once they get that pressure test complete with the town, then they'll be able to finish the asphalt. So that's why,
Okay.
unfortunately, you know, they can't pave the new road until they get it all tested and approved, or else if there is a leak or is a problem, they're ripping up the stuff they just fixed, so.
Well,
It's cold now and it's close. I mean, I know it's painful to wait, but it is full of water now, and it should, you know, now that they will be able to do their pressure test, they'll be able to close it up and see what it does.
I think that's some good information. I never heard that before.
And the cross cut on Morse too, that'll all get taken care of?
Correct, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
they actually put the binder in on 140th going up the hill, so I mean, they're close.
Okay.
You know, I mean, they're close to being able to finalize it, so.
All right, thanks, Dan. Mr. Wilkeny, Chief?
Can I ask a question to our engineer?
Sure.
Talking about sticking a monkey, I guess I'm the monkey, because last week I fielded 3 calls from people in Utopia wanting to know how we're gonna access the hydrants in their backyard during the winter. And I was under the impression that those hydrants eventually would be extended to the roadway. I did not know that that hydrant, or that system was gonna be there permanently. They also complain that when the hydrants get flushed, it's gonna damage their yard. I would like to know, number one, first of all, whose idea was to put hydrants back there and not extend them to the roadway. Number two, how are we gonna get in 3 feet of snow to these hydrants if somebody's house is on fire? Because I don't have the manpower to sit there with a shovel and dig them out.
Yeah, there are, item requirements that we have to have the hydrants every 350 feet regardless of access. And, what we have done as part of this is adding additional hydrants from what were there before. There are hydrants in locations that may not be ideal to be sure, but they were required to be there for our, item standards. And everywhere in that subdivision, along the mains, whether they're in the rear yards or in the pavement or in the right-of-way along the front yards, that we have met that requirement.
That doesn't answer my question in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I understand. And we had that discussion with IDEM of, it doesn't necessarily...
Well, I don't care about
seem to
item,
make sense.
I have to hook to that hydrant, I can't justify letting that house burn down and having a hydrant in the backyard. I just don't understand why it can't be used, and there's not a contingency plan to be able to deal with it. I was under the impression, I don't know if I dreamed this up myself, that those hydrants would be extended to at least the parkway, and it's not. It's not in the plan.
You're absolutely correct. There are locations where we had discussed with IDEM of these hydrants being the required spacing, not only IDEM but for our own standards, don't necessarily seem to make sense. However, we were required to put those in for our permit.
How many are there, Neil? In backyard?
Total on the project, well, regarding rear yards versus total on the project, I believe there are 25 to 27 on the entire project. The rear yards, I unfortunately don't have that number in front of me today, right now.
So Neil, what could have been an alternative to all this, having hydrants in the backyard? Money aside, cost aside, could there have been an alternative to this?
Not based on what the requirements of our permit were.
Okay.
Why couldn't they have been put in the front?
Well, then that would require the necessity of moving all of the water mains from the rear yards where they currently stand and the services from where they currently sit into the front yards, and requiring probably 75 easements along the front yards to be able to do that, and removing maybe 100 trees.
So they're in easements today, correct?
They are.
Okay.
And then that was the way the subdivision was originally designed throughout its different units, from Unit 1 to the ultimate completion of the northwest area and Camelot Villas as well, right off of Parish.
Thank you.
All right, item number C, Town Attorney, Mr. Austin, do you have anything for us? Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Number 7 is JMOB report. We usually have Mr. Salavis here for that,
Mr. President, if I may.
Oh, Ms. Abernathy,
Real
yes.
quickly, I did not get it forwarded out to everybody, but the JMOB report did come in this afternoon. I will be sending the newest JMOB report out to everyone tomorrow.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Margaret, and we don't have a meeting scheduled as of yet for the end of the year.
Okay.
yes, sir.
All right, thanks, sir. Okay, on the public comment for utility board, anyone here for public comment, utility board? Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Robert Grosek, 14055 Theodore. I hear about all these things with the sanitary district, and I have 30 years' experience working with the water reclamation district in Chicago. My question is, what capacity is the Lowell plant at now, currently, today?
I don't have that answer for you. I know it was discussed.
I saw the documents from 22, but there's been a lot of growth in Lowell and also Cedar Lake.
The last verbal word I had that we were at 75%.
And that was last year?
Not that long ago.
Because the document I had seen said 95%.
Oh, if it was at 90%, IDEM would issue an
Yeah,
order.
we would, that wouldn't work.
And we haven't been issued an order.
Because you can only stuff so much sausage into a small freezer, you know?
Neil, do you have any information on this?
Yeah, the most recent data we have, based on the rating of the plant being 4 million gallons a day, we're at right around 3.2 million gallons a day on average throughout the year. Additionally, above and beyond that item rating of the plant at 4 million gallons, we have an active flow system, which is a secondary wet weather equivalent, and that gives us about an additional 1.5 million gallons a day. What we've seen, and Chris and I and Tim have reviewed this, is in the past, from 28 to 2022, we've seen an increase from about 4,200 units to about 7,800 units increase in town. So not quite double, but quite close. And the additional capacity has gone between both communities from about 2.9 to about 3.2, 3.3. And I think that's more reflective of the fact that all of the newer homes, the newer developments are SDR 35 plastic pipe with gasketed joints. All the manholes have A-lock gaskets. They're sealed. All the lids and all the rims have gasketed manhole lids. And so what's happened specifically for Cedar Lake and to a lesser extent for Lowell is your unit volume per customer has gone down about 30% over the past, from 2008 to 2022. And no small part of that is the project you guys did from about May to July of 2021, which was the rehab of the east side interceptor with in situ form, lining that area that decreased its peak capacity from about 2 million gallons a day, tributary to lift station 3, to a peak capacity during the similar rain event to about 1 million gallons a day. Now obviously that doesn't necessarily impact the average daily flow, but dropping the peak flows by 50% for what one could consider a reasonable amount of investment was significant, to be sure.
Are there still combined sewers in this town?
Not in this town.
Anywhere?
Lowell is a CSO community. I know they're working towards that to mitigate and reduce those CSOs, but Cedar Lake is absolutely not a CSO community.
Okay.
And that's why when you look at the differential in customers, which is probably about 47 to 50% higher for Cedar Lake versus Lowell, the difference in flow is about 51% to 49%. Even though you have significantly higher users in terms of numbers, the volume is only incrementally higher from 50%.
The last meeting that we were here also for the town council was showing them that they're building more buildings.
They are. Yeah.
How's that gonna affect the future?
We have analyzed that, and you have capacity on the east side interceptor, which is part of the reduction that we found as part of the rehabilitation that was done in 2021. And the permitting of the volume hasn't changed, but the actual usage of volume from 2008 and even prior through the 2022 analysis we've done, you tend to see a much lower usage per unit home with a newer home versus something that was, let's just say, built in the 70s or the 80s, because we all know the bane of the low flow toilets, the low flow showers and those kind of things, plus with the tighter system of the collection, the conveyance, and then the lift stations, those all have a much tighter system than what we have.
You can't always go by the flow coming into the home, because a lot of that goes out, I know, with the sprinklers in our area.
Yeah, and Tim could vouch for that, because you have water usage that never equates to sanitary sewer usage, and that's exactly it right there. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Grosek. And then this Westler agreement, this ties into giving us some information on, for the wastewater treatment plant as far as needs and capacities and that stuff of that nature.
Yeah, this specific agreement is generally related to where do the two towns realistically or reasonably see growth going over the next 5, 10, 20-year period. But they do have additional task orders that Chris has reviewed with their engineer and their town manager. Their town engineer is a PE. Their town manager is a PE. So they are additionally with other task orders looking at ways to improve capacity of not only the hydraulics, but the biologics of the plant, and that's something that we have discussed in detail at the JMOB meetings.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation, Neil, and thank you for the question, Mr. Grosek. Any other public comment?
Then, to go back to Neil, you mentioned about on Morris, we did, incision through that line, and that helped reduce 30%, which you had mentioned before.
Yeah, the peak, reduced by 50%, and it's an incredibly high value for a low dollar, reduction in the flow. The inflow and infiltration is what it's commonly known.
Okay,
Thank you.
Steve, Jeff Field, 10240 West 134th Avenue. I just got a question about what Fire Chief was talking about. You said there's 29 fire hydrants, but you didn't know how many were in the backyards?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the plans,
I mean,
so I apologize.
Was that water line put in? Was that a new water line that for those fire hydrants in the back?
Yes, yeah, all the water lines in the
Replaced.
subdivision.
Well, I mean, wouldn't somebody have thought it's not a good idea to put a fire hydrant in the backyard? Would that be the planning commission that approved all this stuff? All those plans, stuff with the fire hydrants in the back?
It was before my time, Mr. Beal.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, that was approved last year, I think.
I'm just curious, I don't know who would.
But as Neil said, that it's a requirement that they have to be in every 350 feet, correct? Wherever the line
Well,
is.
that might be a requirement, but it's, what about the people, if that was your house in one of those,
I
in
know.
that neighborhood, what would you want? I
It's
mean,
better
and I wouldn't want that,
either.
and it's just like, everybody said, well, that's the way it is.
It's better to have it than not. For example, if you drive into the junior high school, Hanover's new junior high, off of 141st, it's hideous, but we have them there. What are they, every 250 feet then, Todd?
16 of them in there.
It's just a waste of taxpayer dollars for
Yeah,
no
well,
reason.
it just, I mean, you can't just forget about some of this stuff, I mean,
The school.
it's gotta be planned, maybe think a little bit more.
The problem is that we resurfaced an existing subdivision, so the old water lines were in the rear, so we're re-feeding all of those houses, and in that whole neighborhood, there's 102 houses, so all of those water lines that came out of those houses went to the rear where the water mains were. So, in order to, responsibly change this, you can't just say, hey, let's start from scratch. And, I mean, today's day and age, we put everything in the front yard and, everything is proper. But when you're revamping, you have to make the best out of what you have to work with. And if we would have had to completely resurface every single house if you would have moved them to the front, which obviously you would have had to rip up their backyard to remove the old, rip up the whole front to put in the new. So it isn't, it isn't like you started out with a dream situation, but this, there's hydrants at the corners, and like Neil said, the rule is 350 feet, so some of those look like they're kind of in a crazy spot, and again, if there was a bad fire or whatever, and that is there, and they have a tank or a truck or from the corner to get water, obviously, something can be done to get to it, and it's there, which it wasn't in the past, but, you can't look at it as a perfect situation, just because what we started with is, there's a lot involved, like you said, with easements and ripping up the whole roads, and, it was a very challenging project to get all that in and get all the houses hooked up to the new line, the way it is. So there's a lot of factors into this more than just looking at, in a new world, we look at all those scenarios of, hey, this makes a lot more sense and, where we can adjust stuff, but.
Well, but I'd just like to say in the future that you looked into the residents, how is it gonna affect them instead of just economics or?
No, and absolutely, there's how many more fire hydrants in Utopia? There was 3 in the whole neighborhood?
I'll take the over, but
There
not by much.
There was 6 in the whole subdivision, because the new section had 4, and there was 2 in the old
Okay, the
section.
new section.
And that subdivision
But that
is
still
really,
doesn't do us any good to have 16 fire hydrants in the backyard.
it's better than not having them, chief. You can have somebody walk back there, hook up a hose and bring them to the hose.
And 70-degree water will do that. So.
And when we bought that system, Martin Lauder had installed all those water lines, we didn't put them in.
Yeah, it's the.
So it was a system that we bought off of somebody else.
It would have been nice to know, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it would've.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other public comment for the utility board?
Nobody answered.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's John Burnett, I live at 13466 Drummond Street, Cedar Lake. So, issues with Gallon again. They said they were gonna try to make it right. Permission to approach the bench.
Go ahead, Mr. Burnett, yeah.
Play with this stuff, take it home, let his children play with it. that was all spread in my yard, that was the premium dirt. I have buckets of, large stones that were mixed in, that's a can full of, large chunks of glass, shards of metal. It was all just spread right on the surface. I have to go through several yards of black dirt that was dumped in my yard before I can even possibly spread it, because I keep pulling chunks of crap out. Back to the fire hydrants issue, they actually cut across the road to bury the water main. They could have stopped right there, ran a little offshoot, put a fire hydrant in the parkway, the easement.
Yeah.
Instead, they just decided to keep running the water main down through people's backyards, and then pop a fire hydrant up, run a little bit more.
Yeah,
pop a fire-
there's no question.
They could have literally just dropped one off this way, ran one off this way on down the easement, put 2 fire hydrants, ran to the other side of the block, right off on the easement, but instead they dropped them directly where the water main was, because it's cost effective. Kind of like the premium dirt that was dropped off in my.
I also saw asphalt in some of the spots.
Oh, asphalt, shingles,
Yeah.
tables, there's some tarp in there, some clay drain tile, good stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Any other public comment for the utility board?
Deborah Burnett, 13466 Drummond. You can, obviously, if you want to take a look and see what was dumped and spread in our yard, that would be wonderful. I'm sure some of you have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, dogs. You know, we have our 8-year-old, her friends come over, play in the yard. We have 2 dogs. My question is, who's going to be held liable when one of these kids get hurt? This dirt is still sitting on our easement, so my question to the board is, who's going to take responsibility if one of these kids or animals get hurt?
Mr. Simstad?
We do have the contractor here, as last month, and we do have these items on the punch list, and he can, feel free to comment on that. if
Okay.
you'd like.
As you guys know, I saw this firsthand, you guys invited me over, and it's ridiculous, it's unacceptable. I mean,
It's just not our yard, it's also about 5 houses down, where a water main had needed some repair work done. Gatlin also came and spread dirt in their yard as well. They have 3 kids, unfortunately, due to their children's sports schedule, they weren't able to attend the meeting. But that's our main concern, is the safety of our children.
Well, it's just ridiculous.
It is 100% ridiculous, and it wasn't like they just came and dumped the dirt. Like, the dirt was dumped on the street. They literally shoveled it and wheelbarrowed it into our yard. So, for the excuse of not knowing, I'm sorry, if one of your guys couldn't see some of those pieces of glass, which are bigger than my hand, who the hell did you hire? And I can say, I'm very upset with the council for awarding Gatlin another contract with no other bidders.
thank you, Mr. Burnett. Any other public comment for the utility board? Last call for public comment. Ms. Sandberg, do you have anything?
Is he going to come up and say anything?
Mr. Yeah. You mind stepping up and, I saw the stuff firsthand, and I applaud you for coming here. I'm not here to give you a lashing, it's not right, but that stuff is, I mean, I put down plenty of pulverized dirt in my time, and this stuff with kids, and I wouldn't walk barefoot in my yard with that stuff. So, can you guys make this right?
Yeah, we'll haul it off. We grab that stuff from our yard. I mean, I talked to my driver about that. I was unable to get black dirt from the regular source, which is in St. John, because we're not getting a full semi-load, so that's why we just got stuff from our yard. I told my guys we're not getting anything else from our yard.
Okay.
No, because it's clearly not clean.
It's
clearly not clean soil. I mean, that should be clean black dirt.
I agree, we got black dirt in our yard, and if you looked at the pile, it looked really good, and, you know, I don't know how they got in there, you know. We would not do that on purpose.
Well, how soon can you get out and get it cleaned off of all these people's property?
It's just those two, I mean, I can have
Is
someone
it
else.
only two?
I don't think so. I think you mentioned
We did the two, the one
6
day.
yards?
No, two.
With all due respect, I'd rather Gatlin just didn't come in my yard or deliver dirt. Maybe they should hire landscapers, since they clearly are not landscapers and don't know what bringing dirt looks like. Maybe hire a landscape company to fix everybody's yards, because there's brick pavers. The lady that was here earlier complaining about her fire pit, all they did was haul her brick away, they didn't put her fire pit
It's
back.
unacceptable, absolutely.
Neil, can you guys work together to make this right?
We have been and we will continue to.
Okay. Like, it's got
I don't feel like we're
it's-
going in the right direction.
I'm sorry.
I don't feel like we've gotten in the right direction. Seems like it got worse.
We do have a list and they're working on it, but we can only observe what they do and note those things for their continued punch list to be completed.
Chairman,
Yeah. Mr. Austin?
Neil, is there a spec in the bid and award for the construction contract to Gatlin of the fill material that is to be
Absolutely
used?
there is.
Does what you see here meet that spec?
I don't see that, but based on the description of everyone, absolutely not.
So would you consider Gatlin to be in default of its contract as a consequence of that?
Regarding the restoration, possibly, yes. Yeah, this is
The only thing that was done correctly in our entire subdivision wasn't performed by Gatlin. The
absolutely.
people that paved the road wasn't Gatlin.
So, Mr. Chairman, Neil needs to issue a notice of default to Gatlin. Need to commence those proceedings.
Okay. All right,
I will coordinate that with Dave.
okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Murphy, thank you.
And I guess my question about the liability, if I have a child that gets injured,
Mr. Austin?
That's part of the issue with Gatlin.
Okay. Okay,
Gatlin's
You're gonna
responsible.
thank you.
okay. All right, thank you, guys. Ms. Amber, do you have anything online?
No, there were no hands raised.
Okay. No other public comment. This meeting is adjourned at 7:12. Next meeting is Tuesday, September 19th at 2023. Please stick around for the town council meeting.
Council public meeting for August 15, 2023 is called to order. Please stand for the pledge and a moment of silence. In a moment of silence, could you please remember John Foreman's father-in-law, Mr. Richard Cervantes, and Chris's grandfather. Both passed away earlier this week. Thank you.
And Fire Chief from Highland, Bill Timmer.
And Fire Chief from Highlands. Thanks, Chief. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Roll call, Jan?
Robert Carnahan?
Here.
Julie Rivera? Here. Nick Recupido?
Here.
Ralph Miller?
Present.
Colleen Sheehan? Present. John Foreman?
Present.
Richard Sharp?
Here.
I am present. Chris Gladys is absent. David Austin?
Present.
And Margaret Abernathy, Administrative Assistant to the Town Manager, is present with me.
Thank you. We begin with public hearings. Number one, ordinance number 1456, public way vacation, continued public hearing, Rayville. Deferred an initial public hearing on April 27, 2023, and subsequently on 6/20/23, 7/18/23, and August 1st, 23. Mr. Austin, legal is in order. Bill?
Longest running good public hearing in history.
Thanks, sir. And the legals have stayed in order through all this.
They haven't changed.
Okay,
Unless
very good.
changes tonight.
Opening remarks?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the council. My name is Jim Weiser. I'm an attorney with offices in Cherville, and I represent John and Jean Rago. Last time we were here, you'll recall that we had noticed that there was a discrepancy in the legal that we thought might have an impact on the position that supposedly or allegedly NIPSCO is taking about, as we now understand it, taking about lack of access to our client's property for this, allegedly for the 10-foot easement to do work that they may have to do on the line. So, since that time, and I do not intend to make any misrepresentation here, but since that time, NIPSCO's engineers have told me they're tired of it, they're not interested in talking about it anymore, and they won't give me a reason. I've been given 2 or 3 reasons from NIPSCO why they have a concern about it, and it isn't the overhead lines. First they said it was the telecommunication line, then they said, no, that's okay, the telecommunication line is fine. And then we heard from, sorry, Jim, I can't remember the guy's name, Ben something or other.
Oh,
from,
Ben Anderson.
Ben Anderson, that there might be a concern about access. So,
Now, these folks are from NIPSCO, is that correct, Jim?
yeah, Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
You say Anderson, Ben Anderson, right? Yeah, Mr. Anderson is from NIPSCO.
Okay.
They just said, in essence, their legal counsel said to me, it's between your client and the town. That's in essence what they said, without giving me anything further. I said, fine. So, we're going to do this as quick as we can, and this will be the last time, that's why we're here. You have before you some documentation that I think is incredibly relevant to well, let me just say this first. When we first came here, the first time there was an objection. The first time there was no objection when we were in the meeting, but then Tim had an objection, and a valid one, a legitimate. I'm not questioning his objection or his motives or anything. He was concerned about the overhead lines and the proximity to the deck and the possibility of some liability and health issue or danger, both to our clients and to the public or anybody else using it. So we took a lot of measurements. We met with NIPSCO. NIPSCO then sent a letter to you in 2021, and we provided you the information that showed that we were in compliance with their overhead lines. That their overhead lines, in fact, were well above the required minimum height. The minimum height was like 18 to 20 feet, and they were up about 25 to 30 feet. So that resolved that. But then we there was some hiatus in the whole thing, and then when we came back, we heard that there was an issue, or we were told that there was an issue from NIPSCO about access, and that was now the issue. So what I put before you today are several documents, and the only other person that will speak besides me is the president of the Homeowners Association, Michael Dolder, that I think you'll find his testimony extremely relevant. So we put before you the Plata survey. The Plata survey shows you that the walking path, or the 10-foot easement, there's always been some confusion that it was possibly as well a utility easement. It is not, and you can see how it's marked. It's highlighted in the yellow. It's a 10-foot walkway easement. Begins, or maybe, let's say from south to north, from maybe around 142nd, 141st, 142nd, all the way down to the conference center. That walkway, in many, many instances, has been vacated. People have come here. I suspect there's a number of them that did it legally and appropriately. I don't know that they all did. I don't have that record, but all I know is if you go up and down there, you'll see many homes that have structures that are built across that 10-foot walkway because it just isn't used anymore. And so, for example, the property owner to my client south, which is Mr. and Mrs. Dolder, we came in here years ago and had that vacated. The property owner directly to his north had it vacated. And it's been vacated down the line in many instances and utilized completely all the way through. Part of the confusion also is that when you look at Outlot C, the abandoned railroad property, that's property that's owned by the Homeowners Association. And that's what we wanted to point out to you. So, one, this path is used, this path has been vacated. Certainly, practically speaking and legally speaking in many instances, has been vacated. The only parcel that's not vacated is my client's. And the response that we initially got is, well, the electric service, or the utility service, the gas and electric, well, and the electric lines. In this particular instance, as we've told you before, our clients aren't even served by those lines. Those lines serve only the two homes to our client's north. Our client is serviced by NIPSCO in the rear of their property with a 15-foot easement, and I think that's where the confusion came in with the legal. That's where their service is received. So the second thing I placed before you is a depiction, and Mr. Dolder's way more versed in that than I am. But you will see that that's our client's house, right, the one most immediate next to the pole number 815893. That's the house that has a front door that goes nowhere and is not able to build their deck because it goes over the 10-foot easement allegedly now needed by NIPSCO. The fact is, and I'll let Mike speak more to it, because it's accompanied by a letter that Mike prepared May 20th of 2023, and I think I don't answer. Mike, did you do another letter besides this one? Or is this the most recent one, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. If you look in the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph, that's all I'll point out. It starts Lakeshore Subdivision Association Inc. That's the homeowners association of which Mr. Dolder is president. Owns the lakefront property east of all three of these properties. And when I say three, that means my clients and the two immediately to their north, which is serviced by those poles. And the access at the east end of 139th Avenue. This land provides vehicular access for our members for installing piers and boat lifts across our shoreline. It is also available for NIPSCO to access our light poles. Now that's critical. they have a contract with NIPSCO, and they have an agreement with NIPSCO. NIPSCO replaces whenever there's a problem with the pole, if it's a light or whatever, NIPSCO has to repair it. Well, when they do, they use the access points, which is coming right down 139th, where there's a gate, and the homeowners association opens the gate for them. They come in alongside our client's property, they go right around the front of our client's property, and then they can go back up and they service the poles and they can service the wires. There's no impediment at all to NIPSCO to utilize that, and in fact, they should be utilizing that because that's the property, homeowners property owners association. The homeowners own the poles. NIPSCO repairs them, keeps maintenance on them, and comes in there and has to do work. And when they have to do work, that's how they access it. So if the issue, as we understand it, and have been told relatively recently since April, that the issue is access, it isn't access. They have all the access in the world that they need. So our belief is, having said all that, that the vacation of the 10 feet just in front of my client's house, the 10-foot walkway easement, path easement, it's not, no utilities in there, is no impediment to NIPSCO whatsoever, at all. In fact, I mean, common sense would tell you NIPSCO can't access it. That walkway is right up against the house. They'd be going right along the house when all they have to do is go right around the fence, and they have direct access to the house, to the two houses to the north. So for that reason, it's our belief that we meet the criteria to have the walkway vacated. As the only walkway that I'm aware of in that area that hasn't been vacated. And if the reason was because they need access, that's really not a reason. So having said all that, I just asked Mike if he could come up here, Mr. Chairman, just real briefly to kind of highlight that for you as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry, we could have...
We're fine.
Okay. We kind of wanted the public to see this, but that's okay.
There you go. I'm Michael Golder, 8421 West 139th Avenue, in Cedar Lake. So I guess, first I'd like to speak to you as the president of the Lake Shore Subdivision Association. I wrote you all a letter back on May 20th, and I mailed it to you along with this same photograph. And again, tonight the photograph was given to you with a copy of our latest NIPSCO bill, just to confirm that. So we, again, the reluctance has been access, and I think that we provide enough access. Again, our members drive their trucks down there for putting in the piers and boat lifts, and NIPSCO can easily access it. We maintain it so they can maintain our lights. So I think that knocks out that issue. And I will say that, and also if you look up at the top where the easement is, I've got a little horizontal line up there where that easement is. You couldn't get a vehicle through there. It's not level ground. It would really be dangerous. If the gentleman to the north has a brick barbecue built there, I mean, you just couldn't get through there. But they can easily drive around, and the land is flat enough that a vehicle can get in and access it. So from the subdivision association, we provide that access. So I think that gets rid of that issue. Now, as a neighbor, I own the property to the south. I've owned it since 2001. We had our walkway easement vacated, and the guy to my south had it done. I don't think it's unreasonable. Like Jim said, no one uses it. In 21 years, no one has ever walked through there because the subdivision association owns the lakefront, and we have that walkway along the lakefront, and our property extends all the way to the Bible Conference Center. So
We just vacated yours not too many years ago, didn't we? When you built your house?
no,
Or was it vacated
actually,
prior to that?
We vacated it in 2010,
And then, when I built the house, we did a re-subdivision because of all the other old easements, the sewer easement, and a bunch of other stuff.
I remember both of them,
It
so.
was a bit of a mess, yeah.
It was.
Yeah, and we got it cleared up, so. But, so anyways, I don't think it's unreasonable for you to proceed and let the Regos have this. And I guess in closing, the one thing I wanted to say was, my walkway was vacated in 2010, and at that time, one board member voted no. And that just created additional delay and expense. And so I would like to urge you all to give the Regos a unanimous approval today. So, does anyone else have any questions?
No, sir. No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that, in essence, concludes our presentation, except for one thing. When Mike said something, I have a picture here, Mr. Chairman, if I could approach. And this, because he made reference to the barbecue grill, which is, they tell me it smells great when you cook it out there.
I imagine it does.
Yeah, and it's right there, but you can see, that's a brick grill, a huge brick grill, that's right in the walkway, or what was formerly the walkway, the vacated walkway. So you can see, where does NIPSCO think they're gonna go on our client's property to access those wires, when all they have to do is go right around, and they've got more than enough access to be accommodated and have the access to those wires. So for that reason, we think we've demonstrated the burden of proof from our perspective that the walkway in front of our client's home should be vacated, and that we would encourage you to adopt the ordinance to do that. And again, we'll answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have the reading of ordinance 1456 by title only, Mr. Foreman?
You bet.
Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, ordinance number 1456, an ordinance vacating a public way in the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. Do we have any remonstrators for or against this vacation? Remonstrators? Name and address, please, Jerry.
Jerry Wilkening, 10826 West 131st Avenue. Most of what you heard here tonight is fairly accurate, and I applaud the alternate access. But the fact remains that there's utility lines where they don't belong. And I talked to the people in NIPSCO and gave them all the information I could possibly give them, and they found exactly what Mr. Weezer said. We've heard this over and over and over again. Nothing's changed. The lights down by the lake that have to be accessed are NIPSCO's responsibility. That's absolutely true. Utility lines that feed the two homes north of Mr. Rego have no right of access. It is not the utility easement. I'm concerned about the liability to the taxpayers. The barbecue grill, absolutely, that's totally true. To the north a little ways on the sewer easement, there's a huge brick patio on top of the sewer easement. These things happen. I just don't see how there's any hardship here. Mr. Rego built the house right up to the walking path with a door to nowhere. Mr. Kubiak has stated his feelings on this more than once, more than twice, perhaps more than 3 times. There's no hardship. NIPSCO was confused 2 weeks ago because they're looking for an easement that doesn't exist. It's not in the legals. I gave the girl from, Jill from NIPSCO. It doesn't exist. So there is no legal anything other than utility lines are there. All the other stuff, yeah, it's true. This is not about people who are living here now. This is the next group of folks. And because I'm very familiar with the property, I know that NIPSCO has no privilege to walk across Mr. Rego's property. They have no lawful right to it. Now, good neighbors are good neighbors, I get it, but who are the neighbors next time? This is a poor planning situation, and again, the hardship was created by the homeowner, by doing what he did. He vacated on the west side, that all went real well, but the east side was left to chance. So, that's all I have, on this right now. Obviously, NIPSCO has no concerns because they have no liability, because if something happens, they gotta knock on the door. So, that's all I have right now. One more thing. If any of you are considering voting for this, I would ask that a indemnification document be created, and it relieves the taxpayers of all liability. Obviously, NIPSCO has no liabilities. The taxpayer shouldn't have any liability either, and that's your responsibility. This is a poor plan. There's a solution. Money's the solution. So I would ask about that. If you, anybody's going to vote yes, have some kind of an indemnification so the taxpayers aren't on the hook for if and when something happens on Mr. Rago's property. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Mr. Kubiak?
I'm just gonna restate, what I've said in the past. We've got the site plan that was given to us to build Mr. Rago's house. It shows the building up to the walking path. The walking path's been there since the get-go. The problem that NIPSCO, that the supervisors from NIPSCO, which I provided you a letter with last time, and even though, like Mr. Wilkins said, that this is not a utility easement, it is an easement of sorts, and it currently is an active utility easement. You can't, they presented their case 100% right, that if the pole, if something goes bad with that electric, they're not driving 1 inch away from their house down that 10-foot path to get to that pole. But that is where the wires currently are, and that is an active utility easement. In order to vacate this property, which I have no problem with, as long as the power is removed from here and there is a proper easement, if the homeowner people want to give them a NIPSCO an easement to run that line around, that line isn't a proper utility easement, then this would be able to move forward and be vacated without a problem. But right now, this is an active utility easement. Overhead or underground, where that utility runs, that is the easement that it is running in. So it is being used as a utility easement right now.
Is there an easement to the west of the house?
There's an easement, yes, but this is where the line is. This line is running through this easement to this pole. So this is currently the problem. If NIPSCO moved that pole 10 feet or 20 feet or whatever, and they granted an easement through their property to reroute that line out of there, then that line would be in a proper easement and there would be no future problems. But right now, I've got the letter from Mr. Anderson at NIPSCO. It's an active utility easement. That's the only problem that we have here. Those lines need to be moved out of that space, and then, they're 100% right. There's a lot of people that have the walkway, and I have no problem with them getting rid of the walkway at all. But this is a utility easement servicing 2 other homes that realistically, if this is gone, they can call up NIPSCO and say, hey, get that wire off of my property, there's no more easement here. Which that's the part that I fear is for the people that are being serviced from this line, you know what I mean? Because if these 2 lines go away, they can make a phone call to NIPSCO and say, hey, get these out of here because there's nothing here for it to be in anymore. And that's kind of my big fear. And I don't know that, I'm not saying that they would do that, but I'm saying with that vacated, that's what I think what Jerry's bringing up, that's what you're opening up that.
Well, like you said, there's a solution to all this.
There's a solution, it's to relocate the line.
Yeah.
Everybody's willing to let them drive on their land, whatever, reroute the overhead line around,
Yep.
and then you're good. There's no more problem. I don't think anybody has a problem with Mr. Weiser's 100% right. A lot of people have that 10-foot path, isn't doing anything, it's gone in other places, but this one's currently an active utility easement, which is a big difference. That's the only problem.
Thank you, Tim. Jerry?
Well, as I said before, the Regos have a beautiful home, and they deserve a deck, and I agree with Tim 100%. Vacating that walking path, nobody has an issue with it, but it's an active utility line, just like Tim said. Nobody has an issue with that. They need a deck on their house, there's no doubt about it.
Thanks, sir.
Anybody else?
Any other demonstrators?
Can I wrap up real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Name and address, please.
Dan Collins, 13857, Hughesman. We have the second house north of the Regals, and I agree with what everybody's saying here, but number one, that easement path, legally, I don't know, you couldn't drive a truck down that. That easement path, the grade is terrible. They have plenty of access to come over the property that the subdivision has, to go straight up and fix anything they had to fix. You could not use that easement to fix anything. Like I said, I live up, it's like this.
The wire hangs across the...
What's that?
The wire runs through the easement, that's all it
But
is.
the wire's overhead, right?
Right.
The wire is overhead. That's not.
So you personally, if you're the second house north of this property,
Yes.
and a NIPSCO truck came down along the lakefront and drove over and used a bucket truck,
I would have no
And it-
problem whatsoever.
Okay.
I mean, they have, because there again, that's why we get, that's where we get our power. So obviously, if you want power, we'd have to say yes.
It's about more than just the folks here.
Yeah.
What about the next owner? The next
Yeah, no,
owner?
well, I have a question for Mr. Collins. So if Mr. Rego decides that they built their new beautiful deck and they don't like that wire hanging over their deck, and they call NIPSCO and say, hey, get this wire out of my deck, and now that cut the wire off to your guys' house, now what are you gonna do?
Well, how are they gonna do it? Legally, I don't know, can they do that?
Because there's no easement for the wire, now you just eliminated it.
Right, you eliminated the NIPSCO.
I mean, you just unplugged your own toaster.
But I agree. What we're saying here is, we have
Everything I ever heard
some,
him say.
all they need, they build a beautiful home with no.
No, and I agree 100%, but the.
Why wasn't this said earlier? When they were building it?
If I may, exactly explain what that easement.
That's, name and address. I know, get her fired up.
I know.
Carrie Collins, 13857 Hughesman, 2 doors down.
The easement allows that wire to hang through that 10-foot strip that services the pole that goes
On
to
the
your
ground.
house. The easement's on the ground, it goes straight up. So without that easement there, that wire has no longer could be there from that pole to your pole. That, it doesn't have a place to be, because that easement is what is allowing it to be there. So technically, if this easement's not on the plan, and they call NIPSCO and say, hey, get this wire off over my deck, they'll come and cut it off, and now, where's your...
Okay, my question is, why can't I build over that easement, and if there is a problem, you have to move my deck?
That's not the way it works, if the easement's not allowed to be built over.
Doesn't work that way.
Right.
That was a good idea.
Yeah, because, I mean, that doesn't have any problem with...
You want to go last,
You know what I mean?
Mr. Wilkie.
It's not it's just a problem because of the wire. The wire needs to be relocated.
No problem.
Mr. Collins is exactly right. If you build on the walking path and you get called out on it, you have a problem. This has wires. This is different than stuff that's been vacated before. It's totally different.
Yeah.
But it just needs
This
to
is
be
not
full.
the first time I've stood here and tried to make
I know.
this clear.
I've been to most of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Osborne.
I'm sorry, you want to?
Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
So my question is, something that Mr. Wilkening mentioned, could we make a motion if we approve this to absolve the town of any financial liability and it's placed on the homeowner?
You could. It would take an agreement that would be recordable, run with the land, some form of indemnification as he used the word. I don't know exactly the language it would take, as I sit here now, but indemnification waiver, some type of agreement like that.
Okay.
Or
And it would run with the land, Dave, is that what you said? It would stay with the land? Okay.
Thank you, Judy. There's been some words bandied about here that have legal consequences, and they've been used improperly. And I don't want anybody to walk out of here thinking that there's validity to it. Number one, and I appreciate everything Jerry said, don't get me wrong. In fact, I thought we were gonna have a historic night here where Jerry and I actually agreed on something. So I appreciate that. But there's no demonstration of hardship. That's not a requirement. This isn't a BZA petition. This isn't a petition for a variance of development standards or variance of use where you have to demonstrate hardship. That's not even an issue. Here's your ordinance, and there's not one word in there about hardship. That's not an issue, okay? The second thing is, with all due respect, Tim, there's no NIPSCO easement. There is no active easement. Look
It is
at
active, how could it not be active?
It's active, but it's not an easement.
I agree that it's not an easement, but it currently.
But you keep calling it an active easement.
Because there's a wire running through it, it's active.
But it's not an easement. But it is
it.
not an easement, folks. Easement is a legal term. It has a lot of consequences to it. It has a lot of meanings to it, but it doesn't apply here. There is no easement for NIPSCO across my client's property anywhere, other than the back and on the side, along that portion of the property. It is not an easement. There's overhead wires. And I agree, if you look at the big NIPSCO wires that go through and they've got the 100-foot wide easement, those are recorded, documented easements, and they go all the way through. I defy anybody to go down to the county tomorrow and try to find an easement for NIPSCO on my client's property. You'll spend the rest of your life doing it because it doesn't exist. There is no active easement. There are active lines. We addressed that issue 2 years ago, and NIPSCO said, you meet our rules and regulations, no problem.
So where's your letter from NIPSCO saying they have no problem abandoning the easement?
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
That's a requirement of it.
We've never seen any letter. You say you have a letter from NIPSCO.
I haven't seen one, Ben, the letter at the last meeting.
No, you had a text, and you read partially from a text.
I read it to you.
Yeah, so we don't have any letter. We don't have any document that tells us
We have
this.
several lines in town where NIPSCO property, NIPSCO lines are, and I agree, it's not a
Right.
utility easement.
It isn't a utility.
Two houses are set to be, we are allowing two houses to be disconnected from NIPSCO, but the way that it is routed, I mean, if they choose to say, move this off of here after you eliminate this, then I don't know what NIPSCO's stance would be, I don't know.
Mr. Weiser? Mr. Weiser?
I'm sorry, yes.
With these documents that we got last minute here, I appreciate them, but last time you were here, you said the legal description that we were presented with was incorrect. That was for the strip on the west side of the house.
That's correct.
Have you,
Yeah.
have you presented a new legal description for this?
No, the legal description in the notice for publication was correct, Nick. What was incorrect is when it somehow got on the agenda and it had attached to it that legal.
Yeah, I haven't
corrected
seen
that
the new
last
one.
time.
That's the problem. I haven't seen the new one.
Well, let me see, it should be,
Is there a new one?
oh, no, it's gotta replace Exhibit A here. Yeah, I can dig it out for you, I've got it.
Okay, so I don't know, I'm not gonna speak for Tim, but what I'm seeing here with all the discussion is that area that you're asking to be vacated, that's a public way, correct?
It's a public walkway, that's correct.
Okay.
It's a public walkway, that's
Okay, accessible by the public and/or NIPSCO as a member of the public.
No, I don't consider that to be the case.
So it's
It's a public walkway that everywhere else for a half a mile has been either legally or practically vacated except our client.
That's not what I'm asking though. What I'm asking is that that's accessible by NIPSCO if they wanted to right now.
No, absolutely not. That'd be trespassing.
It's a public walking path, isn't it?
It's described as a public walkway. It isn't described as a public drive your big truck across it.
Well, I didn't say drive the big truck, but you're acting like they can't have access to it. What Tim's saying, I think, is they have access to it by way of it being public way, correct? And the utilities being there?
It's a prescribed easement, just like a right-of-way, they put their lines down the right-of-way of the road, I mean, it is.
So if you eliminate...
Just because it's not a NIPSCO easement, it's...
So if you eliminate
It's not a NIPSCO easement.
And if you eliminate it, what does that mean? Oh, they're gonna have to use the alternate access that's already there, that the homeowners association provides.
I just honestly don't see it on the GIS.
They can't have that wire hanging through there anymore.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes, John, please.
Mr. Weiser, so, members of the chamber here, here's my philosophy. I feel like, as council people, I think we're kind of making a mountain out of a molehill. Everybody knows NIPSCO uses bucket trucks. We know that there's an easement here. We vacated this other gentleman who lives next door to the south not too many years ago. I remember being a part of that. Yes, there are power lines that are up in the air, and we have old Cedar Lake, we have new Cedar Lake. Unfortunately, this is another one of those examples that we have in our community where we have old and new meshing, and this is all we're talking about here. So I personally am in favor of this being vacated, and I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, when you're able to have this walkway vacated, leave the power lines where they may be. There's easy access down to the lake across the front, and there's bucket trucks that NIPSCO uses if and when a wire were to fall, or if they need to access the next two houses to the north. So that's my 2 cents on it, and I believe that's and as of right now, I would not make it contingent on an indemnification unless legal thinks that that is something of the utmost importance, then I may consider it.
It's not legal's call, it's your call.
Thank you. I do not make a contingent on certificate of indemnification. I just make a motion to approve the ordinance number 1456, public way vacation, continued public hearing, that we've been dealing with for the last year or so.
Thank you. We have a motion from Mr. Foreman. We have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Colleen. Roll call, Jen?
Hold on.
Now, wait a minute.
Oh, discussion, I got it. Yeah, go ahead.
I think we're carrying this problem way out too far. I've got one question to ask. What I'm hearing is the only problem we're having is the wires that are running through there. How much would it cost you to move those wires? Has anybody looked into that?
No, we have not, Ralph, because NIPSCO told us you don't have to move the wires. You're not in violation of our rules and regulations. They're clearly up high enough to be safe. So we never even looked into that because it wasn't an issue. It was an issue initially, and we solved that issue.
That's all, what I'm saying is, we could have solved this problem a long time ago if the wires weren't there. What's it gonna cost to move the wires?
Well, whatever NIPSCO wants to pay to move.
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna move them, and we're not gonna pay for it. I mean, that's ludicrous.
Point of discussion is that I don't know how my colleagues are gonna approve this. The fact that the resolution that is, or the ordinance that is being proposed mentions an Exhibit A, which Mr. Weiser has yet to provide us as far as...
I did provide it.
It's in there. We don't scroll down, it's in there.
Yeah, it's the wrong one. Is it not?
No.
Isn't that the old one?
No, I provided your clerk treasurer with the correct one that's always been used.
just handed this to me.
Yeah, which we were supposed to have 4 days in advance, isn't that when stuff is supposed to be submitted?
5.
You're also supposed to have the correct legal, but you guys didn't do right.
Okay, I just don't have the...
But it was advertised
You got
correctly.
plenty of information.
I don't.
It was advertised correctly, correct?
It was.
Thank you.
And it was correct, it was advertised with the correct legal.
Right, to the folks that received the letter.
In the newspaper,
Yes.
to the people that got, yes.
Thank you.
The information I have is not correct, is what I'm stating.
Yeah, I just think we're beating a dead horse here, making a mountain out of a molehill.
One more.
To Mr. Miller's question, they were given a price for the NIPSCO people to move those lines.
You say they were, I'm sorry, Kerry, you said they were?
NIPSCO told me they were given a price.
Oh, NIPSCO said there was a price?
Just shooting from the hip, I'm guessing it was over 10 grand.
We never received anything from NIPSCO for a price. If NIPSCO told Jerry that, I don't know why.
She was obviously lying to me then.
More than likely.
Or you.
We do have a motion.
Don't let Banner go on.
We have a second by Colleen. We've had discussion. Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan?
No.
Julie Rivera?
Now without the indemnification.
Nick Recupido?
No.
Ralph Miller?
No.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
No, not without, I agree with Julie. 5-2, no.
Mr. Chairman, I'd again like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 1456, public way vacation, continued public hearing, contingent on proper legal jargon following the approval that a future homeowner would not be able to disconnect the toaster from the neighbors to the north. And I don't know if that's proper for the motion, but
And I'm trying to sort that one out.
I was gonna say, I have no clue what.
to be able to disconnect power to the neighbors to the north.
Well,
I don't know what that legal document is called, I don't know if it is indemnification.
Well,
To read
if I could, if you were to make your motion as you did, but say, subject to David and I working out the language for an appropriate indemnification document, my clients are amenable to that and agreeable to that.
I'm not certain that's good enough. You all talked about indemnification, and I don't know what that means to you.
Mm-hmm.
I need to assess that. Of course, Jim and I can,
Of course.
do whatever we need to do. We do it all the time. But this has to do with policy. Getting ready to adopt legislation. It's completely in your discretion to do so on a public way vacation.
But then we get a chance to come back and vote for it, once you two have agreed, once there's been an agreement?
I would suggest that that be the case. We at least have something in front of you that,
To release the town of financial responsibility.
Basically, but just in the proper terminology.
well, yes, I mean, I think I know what you're driving at, and I think it can be put together, and I think it's valid and legal, and I think it can run with the land.
It needs to run with the plan.
But there's work to do.
I will remove my motion and restate my motion, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll remove my second.
Okay. John, you're going to restate?
You bet. What I would like to do is make a motion to approve ordinance number 1456, public way vacation, continued public hearing for the Regos, contingent on legal coming up with the solution. That makes sense?
I think it took us back before the last solution.
Did we go backwards?
I think we did, John.
To make it recordable and run with the land.
How about if we continue this 3 weeks and let Jim and I get together?
Hammer it out.
Do we have to go through all this again? We probably do, don't we? I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, this is wonderful.
Mr. Austin, you just suggested that you make it subject to legal?
2 weeks.
For the attorneys to get together.
And come back here with something.
What's the difference between that and contingent on
Well,
legal?
You can do it.
We still have to approve.
You do, but you won't have it, you don't have it in front of you right now for the first reading consideration.
Who covers the cost of this? Would it be the petitioner?
Yes.
Okay.
I have not removed my motion as of yet. I'm contemplating.
Mr. Wilkins?
I think the goal with the indemnification is that the two houses that are fed from that property also know what.
They would have to know because it would run with them.
All three properties.
Yeah, they're serving properties and they're not part of this proceeding.
Yeah.
Again, I would restate my motion, Mr. Chairman. Ordinance number 1456, public way vacation, continued public hearing. Motion to approve with the
Indemnification.
legal coming up with a plan to make sure that the telephone line, or the pole, the NIPSCO pole, will not ever be allowed to be removed or cut off from the two neighbors to the north. It's pretty simple to me.
I know that. I realize that, and you're trying to keep it there.
Right.
I know that also, we're complicated. Jim and I will get together at your direction.
I'll remove my motion and make a motion to defer. Colleen, do you agree?
We have a motion by John, second by Colleen to defer and let the legal team on both sides work out the indemnification or whatever we're going to call it. But and one more discussion from...
I just have one quick ask, and it's not, I don't know that this is a big deal, but I think that during this deferral period, that Mr. Rago should reach out to NIPSCO and talk to your property owners or whoever to the south where they're gonna drive the bucket truck and just put in the easement somewhere out of your way where it doesn't affect your deck and have a number? I mean, that's the proper way of fixing this, is just to provide a place for this power to go. I don't even know if it's possible to refeed those two houses from Huseman Street instead of through your yard. I don't know, I mean, there's several different solutions that would work out for
Tim,
everybody.
you told me to apply for this vacation. You specifically told me that you were calling NIPSCO and you were gonna have NIPSCO move those lines because they didn't belong there. And you told me, specifically, you told me to apply for this vacation and it would be approved.
I said to have NIPSCO move the power line, exactly that. So, I mean, we can argue, but I did not.
We got a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Jen.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes, to defer.
Julie Rivera? Yes. Nick Recupido?
No.
Ralph Miller?
No.
Colleen Sheehan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Deferral passes.
Deferral passes. Until we meet again.
September 5th.
Giving you the same information.
Hey.
A little something, not here, please, okay? Yes.
I guess so, I don't know, let's see, I don't know if you asked for that.
Number 2, ordinance number 1437, annexation ordinance, introductory reading on March 21st, 2023. Review of the legals. Mr. Austin?
Legals in order.
Good. Reading of ordinance 1437. Mr.
Actually,
Whoops.
that's correct, I'm sorry to interrupt. You should read the title of the ordinance, but we're here for the public hearing on the fiscal plan.
Understood. Okay.
Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, ordinance number 1437, an ordinance annexing certain land to the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you, John. Reading of ordinance 1439, or resolution 1439, I'm sorry. 1339. 1339.
Yes, sir. Reading of resolution number 1339, the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana. Resolution of the town council of the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, approving and adopting the fiscal plan for the annexation of certain real property commonly known as the Cedar Lake Flume property in Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you, John.
Welcome.
Any remonstrators? Remonstrators? No remonstrators? Anybody online, Jen?
No hands are raised.
Okay. Go ahead.
President, this is our 58-acre parcel at 161st and Moore Street. Our flow meter is there, our basins are there. We operate our part of the sewer utility under agreement with Lowell from that location. We measure our flow, et cetera, et cetera. There's a provision of the Indiana Code that permits non-adjacent or non-contiguous parcels that are being used for this exact purpose to be annexed, notwithstanding the lack of voluntary annexation contiguity requirements to be annexed into the town. Given all of the dialogue that is occurring with the J-Mob and the hard work of our council members and the interests of the town of Lowell, it was deemed that this was a solid initiative, that it would permit a lot more flexibility in its use and its permitting activities going forward. It is an incredibly important piece of infrastructure in this town. That's what this will do. I have drafted the fiscal plan to reflect that capital expenses on this property will be by and through the sewer utility, that the non-capital services will be provided for by all town funds as related to whatever the need is, fire, police, et cetera. So that's what this is. It's different in that regard from a voluntary petition for annexation. That's
very good.
And it's a very interesting statute.
It really is, wow.
Yeah, truly.
This has just occurred in the last couple of years, and by the way, the town of Lowell did the same things with the wastewater treatment plant, which, as you all know,
Yeah, it's not
is out there in the country.
Yeah, okay. Very good, thank you, Dave.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes, absolutely.
This is unique, obviously, but with the fiscal plan that's in place, and I know it's pretty standard, I think this.
This is not standard, Nick. This
one isn't
This
standard?
is a custom document. I just explained the highlights. I can give you more if you want.
Well, I guess it's just a question regarding streets and roads there. Is that gonna be, that stretch of Morse gonna have to be maintained by the town now, or is that still gonna be a county?
The answer is no.
Okay,
It is county.
okay, because it was mentioned in the fiscal plan, and that's why I asked.
Right.
Okay,
Morse Street is still in the county.
okay.
And according to what I've been told, it's at 160-109 Morris Street. And, that is where we have our 15 million gallon detention, right?
As I explained, yes, Bob.
And so
Meter and basin.
it's 12, the first 3 million gallons gets filled up first, then the next 12 million gets filled up second, and it is controlled by Lowe because they determine when to shut it off at the plant.
Correct.
I think most of what that is accurate, yes.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Tim.
Well, I got to be the bad guy.
Do we?
No,
Never.
not at all.
Mr. President,
Yes.
again, consideration, once the public hearing is done, of approval of the fiscal plan resolution would be the next step, and if that is adopted or approved, then this should be an agenda item at your September 5th public meeting.
September 5th, okay, okay.
Or adopted reading.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Any other town council discussion? You okay, Nick?
Yes, sir, I'm fine.
Town council decision on resolution 1339, do we have a motion to approve? Or not approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Julie,
I'll second it.
second by Ralph. Discussion, roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Nick Recupedo?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Resolution is 1339. We'll have the adoption of ordinance 1437 September 5th. Thank you.
So we do not need to do anything on the fiscal plan tonight?
You did it.
We did, that's the
Yes,
fiscal
yes,
plan,
yes.
that's the fiscal.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Public comment on agenda items only. Public comment, agenda items only, on agenda items only. Jennifer, anybody?
No hands are raised.
Okay. We move to the consent agenda. Claims, all town funds, $273,858.76. Wastewater operating, $66,488.56. Water utility, $53,757.65. Stormwater, $12,621.55. Payroll, 8/3/2023, $378,446.15. In July, remittances total $210,867.16. Manual journal entries, July 1st, 2023 to July 31st, 2023. We move to the donations. Police Department donations, $50, Walter Kyleman. K-9 program donations, $1,000 donations from FOP 125 and FOP 173, and Richard Hinn. $150 donation, law offices of Roy Dominguez. $100 donations, Yvonne Hogan Foster and White Custom Concrete. $50 donations, David Kabinski and Kimberly George. $34.96 donation, Isabel Simchek. $25 donation, Natasha Kubazinski. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and read?
So moved.
Motion by Julie,
I'll second.
second by Colleen. Discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Nick Recupedo?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Hart?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Hopefully those names were pronounced as correctly as...
You were close on a couple.
Thank you, John. Ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 1448, Building Department escrow fees, 8123, approved by a vote of 4-2. John, by title only, please.
1448.
Ordinance number.
Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, ordinance number 1448, an ordinance establishing building department escrow fees and requiring as-built surveys in the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, repealing all town ordinances and town code provisions or parts thereof in conflict herewith, all matters related thereto.
Thank you, John. Again, this first reading was on August 1st, 2023. Approved 4-2 vote. Anything to add, Mr. Austin?
No, this is self-explanatory from the last meeting.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Do we have a motion? No motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ralph,
I'll second.
second by Nick. Discussion?
Yeah, we've never had it in the past. I just feel like, you know, it passed 4-2 last time, but I think, you know, just more money that somebody trying to build a house or something has to fork up. You know, green tag is green tag, and I understand that, you know, the situation, but I don't think it's necessary.
Well, I want to just say real quick, I mean, the reasoning for this is not to make it cost somebody more to get a house, but it's to streamline the process, because we run into winter, we run into not be able to get driveways in, we run into not be able to provide as-built, and all these make people post bonds and do countless paperwork in order to post a bond, get a bond back, go through another time period. Like that, the checklist of all of the things that need to be accomplished is large. I mean, you have to have public walks, you have to have ADA crossings, you have to have as-built surveys, you have to have your yard in, you have to have your trees planted, you have to have everything complete. So basically, this allows for today's day and age with the fast home building for people to be able to occupy their houses and get an occupancy, a temporary occupancy, and then get the rest of these things checked off and then get their $2,500 escrow back. So
I understand.
it does make it better for everybody involved. It makes the process in the bad weather. And right now, if you don't have your driveway in, we don't really have a way to collect a bond for that. We don't have ways to do, the only thing we do have in place right now is a yard bond, but all of the other requirements that have escalated in these new times is what is driving this. And this is how a lot of the surrounding communities do it, and it's a one-time deal, so there's no more doing all these, getting money, giving money back, taking money, and I mean, there's times when we have 300 yard bonds from Old Top or driveway bonds, and all these need to be returned and refunded and whatever. So now each one of these, once all this stuff is checked off, and then there's language in there, something of this does not get done, then we could utilize that money to get that as-built or to get that trees put in or to whatever. So
No, I get it.
It closes a big gap in a lot of the.
It's a lot more efficient, it sounds like.
I understand it,
It's
I
an
just think
awesome
it's
thing.
just a.
Yeah. It is another cost.
I don't think it needs to be a cost, it should have, I felt like it should have been something drafted so that we have the ability to go back
Right.
if need be, but let them go ahead and move in if the plant's closed for the asphalt plant, I totally understand it.
Right, but if there's not a cost associated, unfortunately,
But most of the things that were mentioned, $2,500 wouldn't get it completed anyway.
2,500?
Yeah, that's what this is.
For 2,500.
So it's not much.
It would get an as-built completed, it would get a yard planted, and then there is language in there for, if the town does have to take your money and pay to get your landscaping done, then they would be responsible for the remainder, after that 2,500. So
No, I get it.
I mean.
It's 5 Gs for commercial, 2,500 for
Yeah,
residential.
again, you get it back. And years ago, we used to have a NIPSCO, an electric bond. Every time you got your electric turned on, you had to pay $500, and as soon as you got your occupancy, you would get that back, and that was kind of that was 20 years ago when that was, but, I mean,
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this has been vetted very hard by your team. They spent the last 15 months working on this.
Yeah.
So the costs provided, even though they are costs, they certainly are, the comments about that are well made. The analysis that went into trying to find something fair, cause a property owner or builder to have some skin in it as an inducement to finish, and to ease and expedite the processing internally, was all taken into account.
Thank you, Dave. We have a motion by Ralph, second by Nick. Roll call, Jim?
Robert Carnahan?
No.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Nick Recupero?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
John Foreman?
No.
Richard Sharp?
Yes. Motion carries 5-2. One more than the first time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this will need to be advertised, notice.
We need to be advertised. Motion's adopted, right. Okay. Thank you. Ordinance number 1467, establishing Kiwanis Dog Park activity fees. Mr. Foreman, title only, please.
Ordinance 1467.
Yes, sir.
Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, ordinance number 1467, an ordinance establishing an activity fee schedule for usage of the Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, Kiwanis Dog Park facility and all matters related thereto.
Thank you, John. David, you want to?
I can. Having drafted this from the work of the Park Department, your superintendent and her team, this is the schedule proposed for the activity usage of the Kiwanis Dog Park. Everybody's excited about it. This seems to be in line with what other similar type facilities are elsewhere, plus the analysis of cost being included. This will amend and add to the Park Activity Fee Ordinance 1444, the Kiwanis Park fees, and take care of this business. The ordinance would make effective for the first year, which would be defined as the balance of this year and next year.
Okay.
And then after that, we'd be on a calendar year basis
Okay.
for those fees.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 1467.
Motion by Colleen. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Julie. Discussion?
I saw in there that the fee is a reasonable fee. I didn't see any particular amount in there. I can't. It's on the bottom.
It's on the bottom, if you keep scrolling, Bob, all to the very left. page.
And the phrase in terms, definition, reasonable is from the statute.
Make sure you're on 1467, Bob.
Can you pull it up on the iPad?
I got a new packet and didn't know it. Resident was $25, now it's $60, non-resident, $25, now it's $75.
Well, that's because this is only a portion of a year.
Yeah.
So everybody's not going up their prorated for this
Oh, I
year.
got
There's
you.
only a few months left, so it's like $25 right now, and then it goes.
I understand.
The full year.
So it's 24 numbers.
Yeah.
24 numbers, yes, yeah. Okay, you found it, Bob?
Yeah,
She found it?
they gave me a new packet and I didn't know I had a new packet.
Okay, all right, understood. We have a motion by Colleen, second by Julie. Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Just a second, I lost my,
Whoops,
yes.
thank you.
Julie
Julie
Rivera?
Rivera? Oh, that's your job.
That's my job. Take my job. Yes and yes.
Thank you, Julie.
Nick Recupero?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes, motion carries 7-0.
You added it to the car.
New business.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Would you all consider a second reading tonight?
Yeah, would we consider a second reading? No,
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good idea.
The great opening awaits.
He awaits this,
Fee schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody want to make a motion to amend, not to amend the agenda, to suspend the rules?
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and allow for a second reading.
I'll second.
Motion by Julie, second by Colleen. Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Nick Ricipito?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheeman?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Tart?
Yes, motion carries 7-0.
Ordinance number 67, establishing Kiwanis Dog Park activity fee, Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana. Ordinance number 1467, an ordinance establishing an activity fee schedule for usage of the Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, Kiwanis Dog Park facility and all matters related thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Foreman. This is a second reading. Do we have a discussion, motion, roll
Make a
call?
motion to approve ordinance 14.
Motion by Colleen.
I'll
To
second.
adopt.
To adopt, yeah.
1467.
Yep.
And Ralph, you're to adopt?
Yes.
Thank you. Roll call, Jennifer?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Nick Ricipito?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheeman? Yes. John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Tart?
Yes. Motion is adopted.
I'd just like to say on that great job on Kiwanis Dog Park. That looks amazing.
It does.
So you guys did a great job, Public Works, unbelievable.
Me too.
New business. Thank you, David. Construction observation agreement for the Moore Street and Shades project. Mr. Bell, I believe,
Mr. Oliphant is on the Zoom.
okay. Don, do you want to explain this, please? Thank you.
So this is construction observation for the Shades project north of 141st, east of Morse, and then also the water main project on Morse and Constitution. For this calendar year, we're going to tag team it and do both projects with one inspector, and then the kind of phase, the second phase of Shades will finish up next year. Which will include basically 4-ish more roads. So this agreement is for both of those observation projects.
Thank you, sir. And this is the amount, the total amount is $210,100, and it's shall not exceed. Is that correct, Don?
That is correct.
Thank you. And the 2023 cost is $99,500, and 2024 is $107,100, and direct costs are spread throughout when they do occur.
Yes, correct. To give you an idea, the cost of both projects that were bid is about $2.7 million.
2.7, okay.
About 2.7, and then the 210 is about 7.8%, which is pretty low for observation, just because we're using one inspector, but TJ can handle them both.
With doing two, yeah, he's very good at that. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Don.
Jennifer, what's the source of funding for this contract?
So since this is both the Morse Street and the Shades projects, there are multiple funds this will come out of. I can't.
The ones you mentioned last month for the
Yeah.
Shades project?
Yeah.
Or like,
Whatever the actual construction of the projects is, then we'll correlate the construction observation, the engineer bill, to make sure that they're paid out of those exact same
Okay.
funds.
Okay. I can refer to those in a minute.
Yeah, what, Crossroads Community Grant.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Community Crossing. Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Yeah. Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve the,
I'll make a motion to approve construction observation agreement.
motion by Colleen,
I'll second it.
second by Ralph. Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Nick Ricipito?
Yes?
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheeman?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Tart?
Yes, motion carries 7-0.
And again, I would just say, this is gonna be an amazing thing for the folks that live up there. Yet again, we've accomplished, properly doing roads the right way, so it's gonna be great for the people that live in this area. And never have had any roads.
Never had roads.
They're go paths.
Yeah.
So, that's gonna be great.
Number 2, disbursement request number 4 from 2022A Project Construction Fund number 100-103-1163 in the amount of $4,020.74. And this is the fire department, I believe.
2022A is police.
I was
Police,
just
I'm
saying,
sorry.
it's your police, which is 34.37%.
That's police, because it's a lower amount, that's correct, okay. Thank you. Discussion, anybody? Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Julie,
I'll second.
second by Colleen. Dave?
Checked and approved by your consultants, I presume?
Yes, I believe they have, and Sue's on the line. if
I
we
was
need
gonna
to-
say, Sue is on the line if anybody has any questions, but these disbursement requests are specifically prepared by her, and then I check
So
them.
that's on the record, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I would just add that, this particular one for $4,020.74 is, payees, Veritas Group, it's owner representation for oversight, police, public safety building per November 30, 2021, updated March 6, 2023.
Thank you, John.
Mr. President, if they
Yeah.
won't, if they only all were like this,
Yeah,
they're coming in bigger soon.
yeah, oh, I understand, yeah, absolutely. Okay, we have a motion and a second, we've had discussion, do we have, roll call? Please.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Nick Recupero?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheeben?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Number 3, disbursement request number 3, from the 2022B Project Construction Fund number 100-103-1164 in the amount of $7,677.67. This is for the fire department.
And again, Mr. Chairman, Veritas Group, for oversight on the fire, public safety building, per November 30th, as well as updated March 6th.
Thank you. Any other questions? Roll call, please, or motion, we have a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to approve.
Motion by Colleen. Let's go, folks.
Second.
Second by John. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Nick Recupero?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheeben?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Moving to reports, Town Council report, Mr. Carnahan.
Yes, Mr. Olafon, are you still online?
He is,
I'm gonna unmute, give him a second.
It's tough for an engineer to figure all that out. Where's TJ? He's still muted, Jim?
Don, are you there?
he's on there, but he's still muted.
Maybe he can hear, but he can't talk right now. What is? I just wanted to know what the status was on Fairbanks and 129th. He told me they put cold patch in, and I wanted to know, he said he is gonna get a hold of NIPSCO to make sure that they corrected that.
They've had conversation through email about that, and the NIPSCO guys, they're supposed to be meeting out there. So he's progressing. I got an email today about that.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Tim. Anything else, Bob?
The chamber golf outing is, full. They can't take any more. They've got 72 lined up for.
Where is it this time? Mini-Maness? Okay.
Right, and, they've, prepared bags and, a variety of businesses in town have put little trinkets in there to give out to all the golfers.
Super. How many, when is it? We pray for the weather?
Sunday at noon.
This Sunday? Yeah, it's gonna be hot, yeah, it will be. Okay.
72 golfers.
Okay, that's great.
72 foursomes.
Huh?
72
Oh,
foursomes.
72 foursomes. I don't know. I don't play.
Yeah, that is the max, isn't it, chief? Yeah.
Bob, it's never too late to start golf. Yeah, I don't think I do good.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
To get a golf hat done.
Town Attorney, Mr. Austin?
No reports.
Thank you, Dave.
I have a report.
Oh, I'm sorry, clerk, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to report that we'll be having Labor Day Fest here on the town grounds September 3rd from 2 to 8 o'clock. It's free to come in, lots of stuff for the kids to do, things for the adults. It should be a good time. What is provided.
Yeah, very
And
good.
a couple good bands. Yeah, we've got 2 good bands playing.
Awesome, keep up the great work.
Yeah,
That's
good
awesome.
job, thank you, Colleen. Any other town council before I
No, sir.
move to our clerk treasurer?
No update at this time.
No, the state board's in town, though.
They are, which is keeping me very busy.
Okay.
Is your happy week?
More like 2 months.
Town manager is not here. Director of operations, Mr. Kubiak.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Nothing? Police department?
You received our monthly activity report. You see we're averaging about 41 calls per day right now, for a total of about 8,651 calls for the year so far. You can see our citations are continuing in a correct, our traffic stops, let me rephrase, our traffic stops are continuing in a good location. We had 476 traffic stops last month, 505 warnings, and 151 citations. And we actually had 661 different law calls. Our code enforcement issued 44 warnings and 38 citations last month, for a total of 394 warnings and 346 citations. You also notice you're getting a printout of canine callouts with our new dog. Just gives the amount of callouts the dog's receiving and show that he's being utilized. So we've had 12 since he started in the middle of June. He's been utilized.
Wow.
12 times.
Good, that's good. Thank you, Chief. Chief Wilkening?
I got no report tonight.
Thank you, sir.
I got one thing I forgot to say, but.
Yes, sir.
If you guys noticed by the Dairy Bell, we reutilized those flashing yellow lights for the crosswalks, and Cliff got, oh, you did that flashing?
When you're on vacation, yeah.
I didn't know, but Cliff got the batteries and went up in a bucket truck and got those things back going again, and it was a cool effort to reutilize something that wasn't doing anything, and they make a huge.
Yeah, thank you
Big
for
difference.
that.
Impact, so
Yeah,
that's cool.
no, that's
Not a lot
very
of money,
important.
we did something pretty cool, so.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Deserves to be mentioned twice.
It does.
I agree. It
They were
was
really
definitely Cliff and the Director of Operations' idea to utilize those and save the town money, and I just helped them try to place them.
Yeah, and just all the nice new signs that you guys have implemented slowly but surely throughout the community, the town looks amazing.
It's making a big difference. So that was a cool thing, though, to use something that we had that wasn't working. And
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, fantastic.
It was just a mess down there.
Much better. Written communication, the building department, Chris usually does these. Christopher Burke is basically the same. You want to do a little update? Can he hear?
No, Mr. Oliphant is now offline.
Oh, okay. Then he can't.
He took his mouse and.
I just quick calculated, we've had 65 new construction permits.
Okay, and I think here today, we've had 5 more this month, so we're up to 70, Bob, so.
No,
yeah.
that includes that.
I mean, this part of August.
Oh, for August,
Yeah.
okay.
So far.
Yeah, we had 21 in the month of June, which was the biggest
That's
month.
the high for the month, for the year?
Yeah, only 6 for July.
Okay. And those are residential, correct, Bob?
It says new construction.
Okay.
Permit.
Okay.
June is when you saw your 2 new, commercial construction permits come in.
Okay.
You have a question?
No, I was gonna say what John said.
Okay. Thank you.
I would just like to say, Mr. Chairman, the upcoming work on the police fire, continue retaining walls, place footings at police station, backfill retaining walls, install steel columns at the police station, masonry, stem walls, et cetera. So that's what's gonna be happening
Okay, that's
this
what's
week.
going on? Okay, very good. Thank you. That concludes written communication. We move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment? Anybody on? Jen?
No hands are raised
Oh,
online.
Don't call me. Gail Brandon, I live at 7014 West 139th Place. I've prepared a written statement. It's a brief statement, but I don't want to lose track of where I'm at. A few months ago, I came before this council with my concerns about the preservation of our 4 lakefront parks. And you assured me that the park spaces would be preserved. And one of the council members said that allowing a developer to put condominiums on Potawatomi Park was a pie-in-the-sky idea. However, after some digging and lots of questions, questions have been answered that say to the contrary, that there is some kind of a plan that's been in motion. And tonight I come to this council to be a voice for hundreds of residents that are very much opposed to any further development in or any disposal of the 4 lakefront parks. We ask that they be protected in a conservative land trust to prevent future councils from disposing of them. My petition has become the Cedar Lake residents' petition because many residents ask to carry the petition in their neighborhood. Our community has a strong passion about our lakefront parks. Personally, I gathered hundreds of signatures and I can count on both hands the number of residents who declined to sign the petition because they either were government employees or worked for the builders. Some residents also put a second petition online on Facebook, and it did receive some good support from the online community as well. Please consider that a land trust is the best way to prevent a few people from depriving many of these lakefront parks. The Potawatomi Park is 6 beautiful acres of a lakefront access that can't be replaced. A trust instrument can be prepared that can allow for the disposal or development of the 4 lakefront parks by voter referendum. I ask that you please hear our voices and represent the residents in this matter. Please don't take our lake access from us for the sake of development. For many of us, the lakefront parks are our destination places. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I did bring the petition with me, and the residents gathered about 750 signatures, if you would like copies of the petition.
If you want to get copied to Chris or to Margaret, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Gail. Any additional public comment?
Cheryl Parker, 7227 West 136th Court. In February and March, I came in and requested that we start looking at road impact fees. I am happy to see on the Cedar Lake Monthly Report that there is a potential road impact fee study. But could you tell me what's going to be involved with that? And I don't see a timeline on here. I don't know what the status is, so I was just curious. Get a little more information.
I can give you an update, Cheryl. It's something that I've been pushing Chris to evaluate, get us some prices. I think we got a price from Christopher B. Burke to get this going, and
Yeah, it does say on here that they are working with Claire.
I don't have a timeline for you, but I know that we're out trying to get another price on this too. You know, to kind of get the best deal on it, and there's a lot of work that's going to go into doing this before it's implemented and seeing the impact it will have on, you know, not just developers, projects, but homeowners, businesses coming in here. There's a lot to it that has to be digested that I want to see, all the pros and the cons to it. So unfortunately, I don't have a timeline for you, but I know Chris is out of town right now, but when he comes back in town, I'll get an update from him on that.
Okay. I did some research, and it looks like it did take a while for St. John's to institute theirs.
That's what I understand.
I believe theirs was on their list in 2021, I believe I think when they did that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Not
and
sure.
so, but.
We'll come to the next
I think
meeting
it's
and
really
I'll get an
important,
update for you, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Any other public comment? Public comment? Seeing none, this meeting's adjourned. Wait a minute, we got an answer. Can someone respond to Gail?
I will respond to Gail.
Yeah.
So Gail, at one time, there was talk, just like there was talk about making the downtown area over here something. There was some talk about development across the street from Potawatomi, not Potawatomi. Potawatomi was never going to be developed on. I would never, ever vote for that. I would not approve any of the parks there along the water that are public to ever be taken from the people of this town. There's not enough. It's a privately owned lake, unfortunately, so you can't give you more than what you have. But I would never be for anybody taking any away and making it less. As a matter of fact, I just had a discussion with the park board the other day, because I am liaison to them, and as they are working on their 5-year master plan, Potawatomi will be included in that 5-year master plan. I don't know exactly, it's a difficult land to work with. My ideas were maybe a possible permanent sledding hill for the winter time, maybe cleaning up the lakefront and being able to create another beach space down there possibly, creating a nice walk path that is safe for people to get down there without hurting themselves. We do realize parking is always going to be a challenge there, but not everybody uses it will be parking. It'll be neighborhoods walking, and maybe we can create some sort of parking over there at some point. But I would never be for that myself. None of the parks, Bartlett, Wahlberg, we're trying to get bathrooms over there. We're trying to get a pavilion over there. We want to get a pavilion at Kiwanis. I would like to see pavilions in every park in this town, along with, if not bathrooms, some sort of facility if they're large enough and not just in a subdivision. Some of the subdivision parks, people can go home and, they're more used that way as opposed to publicly. But that's my answer to that.
Well, since you bring that up, the park master plan, I had asked if I could, to the new parks director, if I could be involved with helping with the parks master plan, and I was told, no, that, that they were having it bid out and that I could be, fundraiser for the Friends of the Parks Committee.
Well, I don't know about that. I can't answer for them. Myself, it will be bid out because it'll be an overlay of all the parks. It's something above my pay grade. It needs to be done that way, but definitely once we've created something and bid it out, it'll be open for public comment and be before people to see and have input in. There's no reason it wouldn't, but it needs to be a major overlay. Unfortunately, there just wasn't a parks department here. There wasn't anybody. It wasn't in place. Now we have a park board and we have a supervisors and we have people and we have a budget to do these things that we can create, but it's going to take time. It won't happen overnight. I mean, and the important thing is to have a 5-year plan so we know what direction we want them to go and what makes the most sense to happen first. You don't want to go in, throw something in a park, and then realize you wasted your money because that doesn't fit the needs of the town anymore, and we need to, so that's the reason for the 5-year master plan, and all parks will be in it. I assure you of that.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say something, Gail? Hey, Gail, for example, wasn't that long ago that Bartlett Wahlberg was, Marshall's Place, and we opened up the lakefront, so the council is pro-parks.
7 people can make a decision that it goes away. And condos, there's a new house right there on Bartlett Wahlberg Park, that you could have condos all along there.
But we made it a park, that's my point. And Mr. Bartlett was nice enough to sell us that for like $100,000 less, because we included his name on it. So that was a heck of a great, or Mr. Wahlberg, rather. So that was a great thing that we did for the community, and so many people use that park, and again, Tim and his team have done an incredible job making that look beautiful. It's a great piece of.
I had the town manager, Ian Nicolini, when Wahlberg wanted $475,000 for their property, and he went over and talked to them, and they lowered it to about $275,000 with the stipulation that we put the Wahlberg name on it, and I made the motion in the town council meeting to do that.
I remember.
Good job.
Then next to that was Marshall's Tavern, and I drove by there and I saw that there was a for sale sign. I drove down here, I got a hold of Amy Groves, and we called our attorney, Dave Austin, and we had a 3-way conversation, and we went to work on acquiring that. And then there was a little house next to it. I had turned that in on the unsafe building, and we ended up paying $60,000 for that property.
We remember.
So.
But we made that park happen.
And that was a group town council decision.
100% right.
It's a great park, and I would hate to see something happen to it, but there isn't really much lake property left here, so if a developer comes up and wants, and there's a.
We're not giving the park away.
Thank you. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Next.